Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of Paul Brown Show. We're taping live at 2 Expose You Studio. I have Mr. Darrell Goodman. He's the founder. I have Ray Harvey. He's the chief engineer. Today is my guest. I have the lovely, the beautiful Miss Adelai Brown. How you doing, Miss Brown?
I'm good, Mr. Brown. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell our audience a little bit about the show that you have.
Okay. Well, I am Adelai Brown. Hello, everyone. And I am your heart coach and realtor. As a heart coach, I work with individuals to confront matters of the heart so that they can live authentically on purpose. And my show is entitled Heart Talk, which is a session for individuals to come and renew their minds and restore their hearts. So I'm really excited about that.
It's a great show, ladies and gentlemen. You need to watch it. And, today we're going to be talking about some topics that we have that's going on in our society in 2020. First of all, we're going to talk about 2020. We have this thing going on of replacing the Supreme Court judge, President Trump. He's trying to replace the Supreme Court judge before November 3rd election. What is your feelings about that?
Whew. Well, it seems to me with the social climate that we have going on in our country, it would make more sense to make such a big decision after the election. I think making that decision after the election would be more conducive of what the American people are saying, right, because it will be right after the election, which means that the people have spoken about who they want the president to be, and the president is the person that elects the justice. So I think it would make more sense for us to wait, for the president to wait to elect another justice. However, I don't believe he will do that.
And the funny thing about, we had the same situation went on in 2016, and the Republicans, they wanted to wait until after the elections in order to vote a Supreme Court judge. And these same Republicans now saying, let's do it before the elections. The same Republican senators that said, let's do it after, now they're saying do it before, and now they're feeling that it's okay to do it before.
Absolutely. They feel it's okay because that's what power, that's what supremacy, that's what oppression and privilege will do. When you are the one that's in control, you want situations to work out best for you. They had a feeling President Trump would win, so they wanted to wait in 2016 because they wanted that person to be chosen by a president that they more support and got behind versus President Obama, because we know they gave him a hard time. So now it doesn't look like our president is favorable in the eyes of many Americans. So they want to, in other words, how we like to say, flex their muscle. They have the power. They want to use it right now. So I'm not surprised about that. Any society or culture you've ever had where you're going to always have those who are oppressed and the oppressors, and they always want to maintain control. And so that's how I feel the Republicans or whomever they are, that's how they maintain control.
And it's so funny that we have is all you're hearing these days is President Trump, McConnell, Lindsey Graham. It seems like they're running the United States. It seems like they're making decisions for the Americans. And it's like, I thought this is a country where we decide and not just certain people.
Yeah, democracy.
They're making this, we're going to do it like this. We're going to do it like this. And this is how we're doing it. And this seems to be how the United States is being ran now, by people making these decisions. Certain people, not the people of the cities.
Absolutely. I agree. And it's disheartening and it can be frustrating at times. But what I do believe is that's why we talk about the importance of voting. And we talk about the importance of making your voice heard. I think that we've gotten ourselves in this situation because not enough Americans believe in themselves and what they have to say. So when you sit back and you say, I'll just let you make decisions because you're the smart one or you're the one who knows what's going on, sometimes we put that power in the hands of people who don't deserve it and aren't worthy of it. And that's one of the things about heart coaching and being an encourager that I love to do, because I feel like even a platform like what you're doing,
Correct.
you are raising awareness. You're drawing attention to things that maybe a lot of your viewers may not have known or haven't taken the time to really think about, because maybe I know a lot of people who feel like I don't matter. You know, I'm not important. What I have to say, they're going to vote who they want to vote. They're going to do what they want to do. But I like to look at it from the perspective of the story of David and Goliath.
Okay.
I feel like if you're determined, you can do anything you put your mind to. You just have to say, I know what I am good at. I'm going to fight you on my terms. I'm going to do this on my terms. And I feel like if more of us can be empowered, then you won't have situations like McConnell and Graham and President Trump being the only three that seems like they're making the calls, even though they're not, but they are. It's like the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Correct.
They're making a lot of noise. So it's like they're getting what they want. So more of us have to make noise, but we have to make noise in our language and be
Correct.
willing to work it in a way that makes other people want to learn it and translate it.
2020. Now we got this thing going on now called the coronavirus. Now we have never seen nothing in this in our life, and all I want to know is they've been talking about the stimulus check for months and months. Where is my check? Where is my money at that they keep on saying that I'm gonna get? And I haven't seen it yet. Why are we having problem giving money to these families out here?
It goes back, in my opinion, it goes back to what we were just talking about. It's about power and it's about control. And that's why we all have to take, invest in our voices and speak up, because if more Americans put more heat on their congressmen and women and senators, this check would have been out a long time ago. But they're able to bicker back and forth, and the people who are paying for it are the American people, the workers, the employees. And I was reading something where it looks like they do have some type of stimulus rollout that should be coming out in the next week or two, but I haven't gotten all of that information. But it's still very minimal compared to what other countries are doing and how they're taking care of their citizens. So I feel like a lot of this goes back to what we were just talking about, where we as American citizens have to speak up. But we have to, everyone isn't going to be a councilman or woman, but you can find your drum, like the song The Little Drummer Boy. You can find your drum and play that drum and play your tune, and it's going to work in harmony and symphony with what everyone else has going on. So we got to get on them so they can get these stimulus checks out.
You know, in 2018, we had some seats that were changed, and some of the Democrats, they won some seats. And now these new people that's inside these positions, they want these stimulus package to be moved a little faster, because now they have to go back to that city and say, these people asking, why aren't we getting the stimulus package? Why, you know, we voted you in, but we still ain't seeing nothing changing. So why, I mean, come up with something. Tell us why did we vote you in to make a change and you ain't making no change?
Exactly. That's where it goes back to putting the heat on them. We voted you in and we can vote you out. And that's why I've seen quite a few public service announcements just letting people know more than the president is being voted for in your community, in your city. And you have to speak up about it. And I just cannot. I know that especially in the black community, there's a lot of distrust when it comes to politicians and law enforcement and leadership in general. And I understand that. But that's why we have to voice our our opinions and our feelings, and we have to put people in place and get behind people who are speaking the language that we want to hear and are presenting the lives that we want to live. And we have to speak up and say something, because I can tell you, it's a lot of people complaining about stimulus checks not coming who didn't vote.
Correct.
And that has a lot to do with it. And we have to be willing to be accountable for what we can do. And I bet you if you start voting for people who would have made sure to vote to get your stimulus check and for you to get that amount that you wanted, if you realize that getting up on that first Tuesday on November and voting and standing in line and being inconvenienced, whatever it is that you have to do, that would impact you getting the stimulus or not, you paying extra income taxes or not. We see, it's important, but we have to raise awareness. That's why I appreciate shows like the Paul Brown Show to get people understanding like this is important.
But it's not just November the 3rd, it's early voting.
Yes.
You can vote. There's many different ways that you can vote. Just don't wait till that Tuesday.
Yes.
Vote in advance.
Absolutely.
Just don't wait till that. And now you got a bunch of people trying to vote their last day. Vote in advance. But vote.
But vote. Register to vote.
Register to vote. Make your vote count.
Absolutely.
This has been, and now we got a president now who's saying that he may not leave quietly if he, this has really been a strange year right here. How are we to really accept this society now? Whereas we have a president now saying, if y'all don't vote me in, I may not leave.
I'm not surprised that he said that. Not at all. Because it's back to power and control. What he's saying is, I'm not letting go of my power. And I'm going to try to use it. And as a coach, so I'm a life coach. That's what a heart coach is. I'm a life coach who focuses on matters of the heart. When I hear that, or I have clients who come to me with thoughts like that, even with the pandemic and just everything that's been going on with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery and Philando Castillo and Walter Scott, the list goes on and on. One of the things that I try to remind myself and everyone else is that is overwhelming sometimes. To think about the president of the United States saying, if I leave, I'm not leaving quietly. That can cause a lot of anxiety and anxiousness, especially with what we've seen with this young man. It's not even on the news anymore. This 17-year-old could just walk around and just shoot random people because he's a young white man and he's not apprehended. He's not killed for what he's doing. And it's like we see these things over and over. So what I encourage us to do, and it might sound repetitive, but it's so true, we have to believe in the power of what we have within. So the president is saying he's not going to leave quietly. Okay, what can I do? What can I do for my family? What can I do in my home? What can I do as an individual for my life, my nuclear group around me, and also my community? Work my way from that space. Because if I think big, like, how will I handle the president saying he's not going to leave? Like, what is that going to look like? Like, is the military going to get involved? Are other countries going to come and attack us because of what he's doing and our guard is down? Like, I know my mind and many people I've talked to, they go to that. Understandably so, especially with everything that's going on. So I like to say, when we think about that could really happen. So what can I do to prepare myself? And once I've done that, that's all I can do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if not, it's too overwhelming. Because some of the things he's threatening to do, he really doesn't have the power or the right to do. He's just saying it because he wants to. Like a little kid throwing a temper tantrum. Just a 70-year-old throwing a temper tantrum.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
I agree. I agree.
And this Breonna Taylor, the case is, they just came up with a certain, the Attorney General came up in Kentucky, and even though they gave the family some money, they didn't find the policemen guilty. What's your feelings on that?
Well, my first thought was, I'm not surprised. That's the first thought, right? The second thought was, it's really not on us as black people to show examples of the injustice that we go through on a day-to-day basis. That's just clearly obvious by this case. So the charges that were brought against the officer that did receive charges were because random bullets went through the wall of a white citizen, right? So it's very clear that the life of a black woman, a black individual, but a black woman is not as valuable as the wall, the attempted taking of a life of a white citizen. And so for me, how I see that, I have to keep going back to what can I do, right? And how can I show up, and how can I love myself and other people in a way that shines light where oppression and systemic racism brings about darkness, because it's hurtful. And as a black woman, it's like, wow, there's a system in place that is set up to not value me. But I also look at it like I can choose not to operate in that as much as possible. I'm a woman of faith, so the Bible tells me to be in the world, but not of the world. So I can see that in these systems, in the justice system. Yes, I live in America and these things are happening, but I'm choosing to believe that I have a God that loves me and cares about me, that his son died just for me. If it was just me by myself, he would have done that. And so when I read in, I think it was Ezekiel chapter 34 and 33, and he was just talking about woe to the shepherds who don't take care of the sheep. See, this attorney general and these prosecutors and even the jurors, look, you're shepherds and you're picking and choosing which sheep you're going to take care of. And even though that might be acceptable in the United States of America, there are a lot of things acceptable in America that's not acceptable in God's eyes. And I have to put my faith in the one who can protect me, because the government isn't, the police aren't. So if I focus on that, I'm going to live my life in perpetual fear and I won't get anything done. This is me personally. So I have to put my faith in the fact that the Lord despises unjust scales, right? He says justice should be blind, right? And we know that it's not blind in our country. So I have to put my faith and trust in Christ. That's for me. And in that, I can still show up and I can still tell people that regardless of what happened with Breonna, I believe Breonna Taylor, like George Floyd, are catalysts to some change that will take place. But it's going to take place outside of the systems of oppression. The Lord is going to have to come in. And that's another thing the Bible says. And when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard. And I feel like in light of everything going on, it's kind of like you can see the chaos, right? But if you zoom out of it, it doesn't look as chaotic as it is on the ground. Okay. And so I want to see it from a higher perspective, because that empowers me to be able to empower others. And I keep going back to people like you to have shows like this to raise awareness. Yes, these things are going on, but what can we do about it? What can you as an individual do about it? And so I look at what happened with Breonna Taylor as, this is typical of America. We'll throw money at you because the money doesn't matter. We want to maintain the control. But God is in control, and we have to know that, but act in that.
You know, right now in the coronavirus, we're at over 204,000 deaths. And President Trump rates himself as an A+ as how he's handling that. Mm-hmm. How would you consider, what's your feelings on that?
Well, you know what they say, every frog must praise his own pond, right? So I feel like it's very synonymous with our president and his personality and his ways. Of course he's going to say he's handling it the best way possible and he's doing a great job, because he is very full of himself in that. He's a businessman. He's always advertising himself. Whether he's the president, whatever he's doing, he's advertising himself. And I feel like as a woman of faith, we have to keep our president in prayer. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that, but we do, because he's a leader and the Bible tells us we must pray for our leaders. But I keep going back to, he's just a man, and he's one man. And if we can see what this one man can do when he sets his intention on his own agenda, a lot of us can take from that and say, hey, if I can complain about him and what he's doing, I can set my sights on doing what I need to do. I have a friend who's running for president. Her name is Jade Simmons, right? And I've heard people say, well, I mean, why would you vote for her? Why would you even consider it? What has she done in politics? I said, what has our president done in politics? That argument is null and void with what we have going on in the White House right now. So I feel like he's going to praise his own pawn. Like a lot of people aren't going to admit when they messed up. And especially if that's their personality type, then they're going to blame everybody else but them. Or they did something in reaction to that person. So I expect our president to say things like that, but it's up to the American people to vote, whether it's before November or on that first, November 3rd this year. Whatever it is, either it's early voting or voting on that day, the American people should let him know how they feel about his rating as a president.
So, what last advice, because we're running short on time, would you give our viewing audience as far as voting and the importance of voting and their voice and the importance of their voice?
Okay, great question. My grandmother told me a story a while back about how she marched in her town of Denmark, South Carolina, for the right to vote, and how it was terrifying because she lived out in the country and the KKK used to meet not far from her house. And it's so important to vote when you think about a woman, a wife, a mother of 9 children willing to risk her life to march for us to vote. That's how important to me voting is, that I might not have been here had, with my grandmother's courage to vote. So voting is important. You know, if you read the history coming out of slavery, our ancestors, they risk it all to be able to vote. So we have to understand the power that we have when we use our voice. That's what our words, God's words spoke this world into existence. So when we vote, we're speaking what we feel about our government. So it's very important for us to vote. And if you don't feel like it's important for you to vote, I want to challenge you on what it is about your voice that you feel like isn't valuable. Because I truly believe if you value your voice, you will get out and vote. You will early vote. You will do whatever it is to let America know, hey, this is what I feel about the place that I call home. This is what I feel about the place where I have to pay taxes directly or indirectly. So I just want to stress to my fellow citizens how important it is to vote. And I just want to let you know that your voice matters and you are important.
Thank you, Ms. Brown, for coming on the show. And I look for, you said the name of your show is what again?
Heart Talk.
Heart Talk. Thank you, Ms. Brown, for coming on the show. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching the show, and you be encouraged. Thank you.